Hey everyone, I'm back at the rink today. Finally back to where I've been to for a bit now, and
Back at the
happy birthday to my lovely wife today.
Oh, happy birthday!
Yeah. It's fun to like try to figure out something like a little like pre-show thing here. It's fun to try to figure out what you're going to do for people's birthdays right now. Like
I know.
I have a tradition that what I've always done for all of our birthdays. Like I tend to go really pretty big for birthdays, and I like to do like full surprise days. Like I'll take a Saturday and I'll be like, she won't know anything we're doing for the whole day. Like one year we ended up at like at Radio City Music Hall, then in Atlantic City. Then I'll just say we'll just go from place to place to place because we both like to drive and but now like it's like, well, like let's see, I can take her to the backyard. We can watch a movie out there, but now it's raining today, so that sucks. So yeah, I'm lost. I'm like really like
listen, mine's coming up and we're not going to do much. I mean, I'll get an ice cream cake. I'm sure that's it.
A cookie puss?
No, but I don't know if we're going to get a Carvel one. I got to be honest. I got one at Dairy Queen that was really good. And I got one at Brugger's that was actually the best. I was shocked because it had real cake instead of just all ice cream. It had ice cream and cake. And I was like, we might do that again. So.
Could I? So along those lines, wasn't it like something I usually want to do? Like we know we've been playing pickleball a lot, so I got our new pickleball racket for
that's good.
Pretty funny because like we were using the ones that came with the set, which were like just like wooden.
Yeah, they're usually crappy.
Yeah, so I got her a pretty good one. And of course, I got myself one because otherwise it just wouldn't be fair to play.
Oh, you see now that
again. I don't usually do that, but I'm like, she's already better at.
I'm hoping you got her a little bit
better at racket sports than I am as it is.
I'm
like
hoping hers is a more upgraded version than yours. Otherwise,
yeah, no, it's nicer than mine. Okay. But I had to go a little bit better because she played tennis all over her life, and I'm like, I've played hockey all my life, so I'm already fighting an uphill battle here.
Right.
So I went to this market yesterday called Redner's, which is in Pennsylvania. I don't know if I've ever seen them before, but they're like, and I have been doing lately because of the pandemic. I've been getting my groceries delivered a lot.
Okay.
Which is super crazy convenient, and just it's real lazy though. I mean, I'm like, oh, come on, it's like $20 here, $20 there to get them delivered. I'm like, I got to stop doing this because but it's so friggin' easy to sit in your bed and click on the food you want and have it show up.
And you see him shopping while you do it. It's funny.
Oh, it's awesome. So I'm like, no, I had to get something quickly. So I'm like, I went to Redner's, which is right down the street, and I am sold. Like I've on the record as a hating Wegmans. Like I hate Wegmans with a passion. Like I think Wegmans is a horrible.
Mike loves Wegmans. This is going to
be. Why do you hate Wegmans?
Few places Mike and I disagree.
Why do you hate Wegmans?
I don't like I find them snooty and obnoxious. I once got pulled like when I was outside. They thought I was shoplifting something, and it was the funniest thing because I went through the line, right, and apparently like. So I gave the woman, I always buy a bunch of these, like you'll see like a ton of these.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to check them all out because they'll all be like in the cart. So I'll be like, I got 10 of these or whatever. So I did that. So I go to get to the car and the guy comes running up behind me. He's like, hey, sir. And I thought I left my credit card in or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, did you pay for those teas? I'm like, yeah, I did. Of course I did. And he's like, can I see your receipt? And I'm like, and I couldn't. I was digging through my receipt and I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, who knows what you did with it?
So I had to go back inside, go back, and ever since then I'm like, forget you, Wegmans. That's enough, I mean,
honestly, if you want to run into snooty, go to Whole Foods because
Whole Foods is we call that whole paycheck.
Yeah, we all know about it. X got one near him. I don't
like Whole Foods. I mean, there's one thing I like at Whole Foods. That I go there to get. I like their frozen dumplings, but besides that, I'm like nothing else at Whole Foods.
Yeah, I've never encountered that. Now maybe it's Wegmans in around Eastern Pennsylvania because Wegmans
started up by you guys. Wegmans is
Wegmans was started in Rochester and it's been in Buffalo for years. And
my wife loved Wegmans at the when she was at Cornell. But years ago. But yes.
Let Russ get to
with Redner's, and then we will get to Russ. Sorry, but I wanted to finish this. I wanted to give these guys some props because this market was astonishingly good. It's the kind of thing where everybody in there is like an older guy or an older woman who've been living there forever. I found out they give stock to their people. It's like a down home Pennsylvania type market. It was literally like we have three like price points. Like Wegmans is up here, Giants up here, and Redner's was cheaper still. I was like amazed. and I'm all in on Redner's now. If you have a Redner's near you, I probably don't, but if you do, it's absolutely astonishing. I love companies like that like, you know, that are still like family owned and still.
Yeah, I agree.
It was nice. So, Russ, what do you have to say?
All right. So I'm going to talk about a good, well, I don't know if I can call these guys a company, but they have a big eBay store. But anyhow, the other day, eBay was celebrating its 25th anniversary. And I saw somebody tweet that he goes, "Thanks, eBay, for the $25 coupon." And I'm like, I know the guy. So I'm like, hey, what's that about? And he goes, well, if you were in it as a user member at the very beginning, they gave you a $25 coupon. And I'm thinking, I think I was. So I went into my messages, and sure enough, it's there, right? And so I went shopping, and I said, you know, what could I get? And of course, I got like a trading card. And so what I was looking for, and it was interesting because you had to spend the 25, right? You couldn't like spend it in increments. You had to spend, it had to cost $25.01 at least. I went a little higher. I think it's cost like $32 or something. But I ended up getting an Ed Kranepool rookie from 63. But actually, what I had not realized at the time was this guy here, who's Pedro Oliva, but really Tony Oliva, is in one of my books. He was a rookie of the year in 64 for the Twins, and Howie Carpenter is the guy who I wrote Baseball's Best Rookies with. He highlighted him, and I watched him towards the end of his career. And what's interesting is we both feel like this guy could be like a Hall of Famer. And you know, and it's funny because that to me is always the best way to collect is get the guy who's not in the Hall of Fame yet that you think could. Like I went out and got Bly-11 before he was in, Ted Simmonds years before he was in, and those cards will go up a lot in value. Yeah. And so, you know, I looked up Oliva, Mike, and I know you'll care about this because he, in an 8-year period, now he only played 15 and he was hurt a lot. He had bad knees in the years where you couldn't get knee operations. He had led the league in hitting 3 times. He had the most hits in the league, in the American League, like 5 times. In an 8-year period, he was in the top 10 of a lot of big categories and actually was in the MVP voting top 10 at least 5 or 6 times in his career. And, you know, I just think this guy is going to get in. But what the other trend on this one, Eck, and they're doing this, they'll do this in hockey at some point. A lot of times if there's a little bit of a beat up card, like not a perfect one, they'll get the guy to autograph it because, like, if it's a mint card, you don't want the guy to autograph it, right?
You're right.
But if it's not, it's okay to get the guy to autograph it. So, right. Because it's like, hey, you know what? It actually would increase value. Like if I found Oliva, sure, I would open that up and have him autograph it too. So it's a fun thing to get. And the guy is B&E Collectibles. I mean, he really went out of his way. He said, hey, if you want the hologram that says the autograph's, you know, good, I'll give it to you. And which is that. But then he gave this great case. And I was like, you know, it was nice to get in the mail. I was like,
yeah, you know who we need to have on at some point is, you know, you guys know Steve Chertoff because you worked with him.
Oh, yeah.
A different thing. Chertoff is his job.
I used to review his products.
Yeah, you did. Just like Star Trek cards and things like that.
I used to bother him and review his products, and I still have a bunch of cards.
It's really funny. Yeah, he's a good friend.
Yeah, we should have him on.
Evan's and mine and yours, and
listen, I got to tell you, that company of his did so many good cards. It's not even funny. He would get amazing. He did the first WNBA cards actually. Yeah.
No, he's an incredible guy. Great family. They actually our families got so close. They bought a place next to ours down in Margate. So we're we hang out with every weekend. So
definitely should have him on. A lot of times he and I are fans of a lot of the same players too because we're similar age and same.
A really great Stanley Cup book that I was reading, like the Stanley Cup from like 1912 to 19. He used to work for the NHL too. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he did. He worked for the NHL in Montreal when the NHL offices were in Montreal with.
Okay.
With what's his name years ago. Starts with a Z, last name, president of the NHL.
Oh, but John Ziegler.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, with a Z. I thought you said C. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, Ziegler.
I was going to say Charlie Zalapsky, but he was never president of the NHL.
I try and forget.
By the way, guys, in the chat room, I have to tell you, thank you guys. My daughter never turns on the show ever, right? She's at college yesterday. She's talking to one of her friends. No, 2 days ago. She's at college, and she's talking to one of her friends, and she turns on the show for a second to say, this is what my dad does, you know? So she's watching the show, and as she's watching the show, somebody, I don't know who it was in the chat room, you can admit to it if you like to, they're like, oh, this is really cool. And they're like, oh, and they throw up chats to him. And someone writes, you know, great, you know, Kim Jong-un haircut, Eck, in the chat. just as my daughter logged on.
I think it was funky. I'm pretty sure it was funky.
Fantastic. I'm like, That's awesome. I appreciate it. So so thanks, Mikey, whoever.
I love them.
I really appreciate that. Because I'm trying to, I very rarely can impress my daughter's friends at all. So this is my one shot, and I blew it. So anyway, there you have it. I appreciate it.
I have big breaking news, Zach. I do.
Go ahead, breaking news. Let's start the show.
No, we'll start the show and then we'll do it.
All right. I know the date. I'm just looking for the date. What the hell's wrong with me? It's my wife's birthday. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, September 10th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and the New York Yankees won in Buffalo. Yes,
I'm Russ Cohen, and once again, nobody cares about Buffalo.
And I am Eklund with not a Kim Jong-un haircut, but perhaps if I don't pay attention to enough.
It's a Kim Jong-il haircut.
If I put it back, I guess I know it's short. Give me a break, guys. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's only hair. It'll grow back. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. We have to talk about games. We have to talk about rumors. I've got lots of fun things to discuss today. I am all in on the rumors right now because since everything got moved up, we are in hyper mode. Russ, you've got some breaking news too. So
yeah, this came across my desk a couple minutes ago. The NHL sent it out. They're going to start doing a pregame show, and of course, New Amsterdam Vodka is the sponsor. But they're going to have John Taffer from Bar Rescue doing these interviews. I don't know if you ever watched the show, but I'll give you the setup. The setup is you have a bar that's losing money. He goes in, he puts in a lot of cameras, he spies in the car, he tells you your food sucks, he tells you your service sucks. He almost gets into a fist fight with the owners, half the time, and then he turns it around. And then I would say half the time these bars go out of business because when I go and double check, they're out of business like a year later. But, he does a good job with them, and a lot of times they do stay in business. But my whole point is I've never heard the guy talk about hockey. His eyes bug out when he yells, and I can't imagine he can do an interview. And so he's interviewing Brian Trottier and Scott Gomez, and I'm like, well, what's he going to interview Scott Gomez about? His bar in his basement? I just don't understand marketing here. And this is when the NHL just tries to go too mainstream. And for me, this is like a miss.
This is the NHL's issue, and we've talked about it before. They are, let's not make any bones about it. This whole thing has been phenomenal. And I don't even want to. I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that this has been my favorite hockey thing that's ever happened. If you were to do like a long-term thing of playoffs or tournament or whatever, just like Olympic tournaments, playoffs, the way they did this, I would do for the rest of time if it made any sense at all, because it doesn't. But I love from a perspective of watching things and from being able to watch every freaking game. It's this. We are going to look back on this and be like, that was awesome.
Sure,
I can feel that already. I'm already missing the fact that we only have one game a day.
Well, they are talking about having the World Junior in the bubble in Edmonton. Russ, I don't know if you heard about that.
I haven't heard that. No.
Yeah, it was mentioned. It was mentioned as a likely scenario.
Because just like having it in Buffalo, really.
Yeah, or like the Czech Republic.
Come on, Mike knows the attendance was awful.
Yeah.
Well, the attendance. I'm sorry, but the attendance was awful because it was the third time in 4 years that you had it within 100 miles of Toronto,
and they sold 80,000 seats to the outdoor game.
Right. Let's get back to Russ's original point for a second.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The NHL, where they tend to lose it is when I've always made this thing, and I think the NHL is like the cool kid who's the quiet kid in your class in high school, doesn't get all the good-looking girls, but gets like the best girl, who's like the girl, the kind of girl you want to marry, and it's just like super is like very popular among cooler kids, not popular among everybody. But when the NHL stays right in its spot, it just kills it. It does amazingly well.
Well, I do have to say,
go outside of that, which we've seen before, and we've seen it in the press box, when they give MTV a press seat instead of one of us.
I do think that the NHL, and I don't get me wrong, I understand the reason why. Right now, any advertising situation they can get into is to reduce the losses that they're going to incur because of not having fans. But they really are whoring themselves out. The 5-minute thing for Rocket Mortgage, the Jägermeister, the incessant commercials from Discovery.
The exception really.
Here's an example.
I'm fine with everything.
if this were the 1972 Stanley Cup, would they have Julia Child like in between periods cook up something real quick?
Yeah.
And sponsored by Bisquick or something like.
Yeah, no, but she'd sever her finger and bleed all over. Like,
hey, I'll take all the advertising they want to throw at me. If they want to do this forever, I would do it. I would like put advertising on the boards, on their uniforms, on the pucks, on anything. I want. This is the way I want to watch hockey in the future.
But the only thing, this guy is not a known interviewer.
No, I know this is but they think he's cooler. It's like they're trying to be hip. They're trying to be. That is definitely this is the NHL's downfall when they do this, and they know it. There are people there. This is the thing. There are people in the NHL. I've talked about this before. There are people there who know this. That this is like this. That they should stay in their lane and just own their lane because that's what they can do. Like I'm not going to go out and write baseball rumors every day, but I can own the hockey rumor world if I try hard enough, But with baseball rumors, no, not a chance. Oh gosh.
I have a picture of that when Eck was on the ball and then he fell off. I still have a picture of that. It's such
my wife has that actually bookmarked on her page to go to people. So I've seen it plenty of times. Yeah. I mean, my family know. I mean, listen, my kids know that I can laugh at myself and so it's just hilarious. But I have to because I do something stupid every 24 hours, at least one really stupid thing every 24 hours. That's the joke around here.
Well, okay.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to
let's talk about the game first, and I want to
talk about the game. And since I wasn't here yesterday because of again family issues, thank you guys so much for that. This actually was a little bit beyond that too, but I want to talk about both teams got back. Like Vegas and the Islanders both got back to like themselves. Like like we predicted they would. Like game one was a bit of a anomaly, right? Like it was. Well, two teams I don't think that were quite ready, but I thought the Vegas in game two and the Islanders in game two played like the way they have to play to win.
Okay, well, just touching on the Vegas thing quickly because I said, that was closer to the Vegas team we expected to see, but I also think that Dallas played possibly the worst game of the playoffs. They were undisciplined. They took stupid penalties, and players who are experienced, guys like Perry and Radulov, took stupid penalties. And Bonus after the game said, he pulled. It was a mercy pull for Khudobin after two periods because he had faced, it was a ton of shots.
He didn't help himself either, though.
He just looked really tired.
Yeah, but he said it would have been 6-0 if it hadn't been for Khudobin. So
this is. The Islanders. Think about what they did. They played a series before this.
Right.
You're starting to see that. You're starting to see that play out.
And I know Russ disagrees with me because I said this yesterday in the chat, and he shook off my. Right. I think this series is over with because the Islanders dominated game two. They should have won that game going away. The 5-minute major on Killorn, other penalties that they had, their power play was not effective at all. They let Tampa Bay hang around. Tampa Bay gets a goal at the end of the first period to tie it up. It's basically a chess match, although I thought the Islanders were the better of the two teams. And then and Braden Point goes out, their best player, and then they win the game, dominating the last 30-40 seconds of the third period.
3 great chances.
Yes, they are shorthanded. We don't know how injured Point is. Killorn's probably going to get suspended.
Yeah, yes.
I don't know if the Islanders recover from this.
Here's where I disagree. Okay, so first off, Eck, your theory is wrong because the blowout didn't
win the series
by the Islanders.
It's about winning the series. It's not about winning the next game.
Okay, fine. We'll move on from that. Watching that game, and I knew the Islanders would give a better effort. They gave a great effort. Actually, Varlamov was terrific.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose the last 30 seconds, there is nothing to hang your head about in the entire game. Yes, there was a time that Tampa only had 9 forwards, but that's John Cooper's nonsense for putting too many defensemen. I doubt he'll do that again because that did almost cost them the game. The Islanders lost the game because they didn't cash in on a 5-minute power play.
Yeah.
We don't get that. But they only lost because there was a good play made at the end of the game. That is the only reason they lost. If you think Barry Trotz is going to have his guys give up this series, they may win this on attrition because, again, Braden Point is really hurt. Braden Point barely played, and you're not going to have Stamkos. Now you're not going to have Point. Now you can key in on Kucherov. That could change things. I am not.
No, I agree. And here's the thing. The Islanders, you can ask the Flyers, and I talked to a couple of guys since they got back. They're exhausting to play against. Like the Islanders physically, and mentally exhaust you because of the way they play. You know, they are a team that if you can get up a couple goals on, and you're a solid team like the Tampa Bay Lightning are, you shouldn't lose the game to them. Like the Flyers get back a couple times. That shouldn't happen. The Islanders shouldn't be able to do that to you.
And
but
you know what? And
the Islanders are if they play like that, if they keep playing like that, and the Lightning start losing, because players aren't going to get healthier playing against the Islanders. It's like they're going to keep pounding you.
You know what? And that first goal was a joke. Thomas is right. I do believe Shattenkirk touched that puck, and the fact that wasn't reviewable.
Yeah.
Mike, what did you think? Didn't it look like when they showed that other angle that he indeed touched the puck?
I couldn't tell. I watched it 3 or 4 times.
I thought he touched it.
I thought he touched it too. Can
we talk about reviews for a second? Because I know we talked about it a little bit before.
Well, this rule needs to change because the fact that made it an icing and then gave him the face off and everything else, that was bad. That was bad.
That kind of thing is the kind of thing that should be reviewable, in my opinion. And if you're wrong, you get a penalty. Right. But goals in the playoffs should be automatically looked at. Like that's just how it should be.
That's a good point, actually.
They should be looked at because the fact that what we're doing is like if you you have 30 seconds and an iPad, like you're sitting there, like they're sitting there, like trying to figure out like in 30 seconds whether or not something happened. And if they get it wrong, they not only lose the goal but go shorthanded. That's a ridiculous rule in the playoffs, or really at any time, but especially in the playoffs. Like to me, like. That is like something like, the NFL, don't they have every scoring play is in the last 2 minutes or whatever is reviewable or whatever they have something like that? Why can't the NHL learn from other leagues? And there's reasons for that.
It's a great point. I mean, look, and I get it online. Some people are like, hey, that's Devin Taves' fault. He was definitely trying to ice the puck. Do we know that for sure? Yeah, you never know for sure.
The NHL,
but icing in the league now is so convoluted because
Mike, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. In the Dallas Colorado game, it was not a particular key point of the game, but I remember seeing a Dallas player shooting the puck from the other side of the red line, trying to make a stretch pass right near the blue line. It misses the Dallas forward. It passes by the Colorado defenseman by about 3 feet 10, 15, 20 years ago because the defenseman was in the area and could have touched it. That would have been no icing. They called it icing. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you're dumping the puck in and there's nobody around, then that's icing. But if there's a player around, you want to keep the play going. I don't get it. I really don't.
No,
I don't get it at all. And I miss the NHL had one of the best.
This was a big goal. It really was.
It was a huge goal, and the NHL had one of the best. I mean, and this is the kind of thing like to me, it's like the offsides thing. Remember with Tampa before that, like that was in Pittsburgh, I think it was, or then the one with Colorado that all started this whole thing of offsides being reviewable. This should be the play that makes icings.
And here's the other thing, Eck, and we see this even in baseball, and we've talked about it before. Knowing that play was close, why not have everybody huddle up for a second before they drop the puck after the goal and say, what did you see?
Why don't we want to get these things right? Like, why don't we want to get goals right? Like, what's the point? The NHL knows that if they miss a call and some coach is afraid to challenge it because, man, if you're like the Flyers are the perfect situation where the 2 goals that Vigneault challenged in the Islander series, the one at the end of the game, and they were terrible challenges. But I kind of felt for Vigneault having like a couple seconds to try to figure it out, and why does the NHL just want to get those things right?
Well,
the Flyers pretty much could have lost the series on that.
Absolutely, they could have.
The NHL did get it right, like in the Vegas-Dallas game, that goal that made it 3-0. It was clear that whoever.
The one that they counted like a minute and a half later.
Yeah,
am I forgetting? Wasn't there a time when the refs were allowed to go upstairs whenever they wanted to?
Yes, there was, but that was like 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, but now it's up. Now it's up to like.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like this is how it should be after every single goal. I mean, I think every goal because we have. In the
playoffs, you could look at every goal.
No, but even in the regular season, if you looked at it if you looked at it the second a goal happens and you started reviewing that immediately, and just went back, 30, like even if you just went back 30 seconds, say like. The 30 seconds before the goal, which is honestly what I think, because I don't think offsides that happen beyond 30 seconds before that, even though if the puck never leaves the zone, I don't think they affect the play. So I think you go back 30 seconds, right? Yeah. And you go back that far after every goal. That's in the time that they're like people are celebrating getting back on. You could actually do that every time and then call down and say there's something we want to look at if something looks iffy. That's not a play. That's not.
Now, just going back to Point's injury, because I saw the replay a few times. It looked like either a right arm injury, either wrist or elbow, or a shoulder injury, because he crumpled against the boards. It looked like he was favoring his right arm when he went to the bench, and he didn't come back after, I think it was the first period. He only had like 8 minutes or 9 minutes of ice time. If they lose him, that's one leg of that team being kicked out. And somebody in the chat says, well, that just means they'll activate Stamkos. Stamkos is not playing in this series. Cooper would not have come out and said he's not playing in the series if he wasn't playing in the series. He would have left it up to chance, because then Trotz would have to game plan for Stamkos. If he's saying he's out for the series, he's out for the series.
He left the bubble. It's been come out now that he left the bubble in Toronto. He wasn't even there the whole time.
Okay.
People were like, they left it early on because
he went to see a specialist, apparently.
Yeah, so it's like, to me, is he even in Edmonton? Do we know he's there?
I think
he's in Edmonton. There.
Yeah, I think I heard he was, but I'm not 100% sure. But
I mean, but why are you so crazy secretive about where he is? Like, if he's, it's just so funny to me.
It's for us, like, to figure out where's Steve Stamkos. Like,
where in the world is Steve Stamkos? So to me, something that I think that I was thinking about this watching the game last night, and I've been as a Predators fan, I spent a lot of time watching Barry Trotz's teams play. So, and I remember the Predators' problem in the playoffs used to be when they played against the Blackhawks. Like, if you remember, the Predators would always get, even before the Blackhawks were winning Stanley Cups, the Predators couldn't get by them in the playoffs until Laviolette takes over and sweeps the Blackhawks.
Right.
It was a weird, Anyway, so
well,
I don't know why teams aren't looking more. I want to go back and watch some of those games and look more at how the Blackhawks played this system, because it is the same. The forecheck is the same system. Okay,
Stamkos is on the scratched list, so that I would assume that means he's in Edmonton. But let's just talk about this. If somebody in the chat brought this up, if Point is out, what is that? Does that mean like Tyler Johnson's their number? No, their number one center would be Cirelli. Their number one center would be Cirelli, and then probably the number 2 would be Yanni Gourde. The number 3 would be Johnson, and they probably insert a guy like Carter Verhaeghe as the 4th line center, because he's not in the lineup. But they have to. It's a luxury to be able to go with 7 defensemen, and maybe they've done that.
Can't do it anymore.
They can't do it anymore. Put a Mitchell Stevens in there,
especially in this series. The Islanders are gunning for him. They are.
Now, if they
here's the text I just got. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so when Stamkos left the bubble a week ago from Toronto, and I'm told that he came to the States for his to see his doctor.
Yeah.
So now he's actually quarantined, and before he can in Canada before he can play. That's kind of interesting.
So maybe that's how they know he can't play in this series. Going back to the Killorn hit,
I might be wrong, but that's one source. So I'm just.
Is there a reason he didn't get kicked out of the game for that and only got the 5-minute?
No, he got a game misconduct.
Oh, he did. Okay, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear the game misconduct part.
Yeah, no. They reviewed the call, and then they said 5 in a game. I think they originally just said 5.
They originally didn't say it right. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But he's facing potential suspension, and I would assume that based on every suspension that's been a game out there,
he should get a game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's funny because I thought that Ryan Reeves should have gotten 2 games for the hit that he had on. I can't remember who it was for Vancouver.
Oh, Ryan Reeves should have been ejected for the hit he did against the Arizona guy. That was the one that killed him. That
I gotta tell you, what's his name? Brock Nelson looks like a UFC fighter right now.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Brock Nelson on the second hit, it was not the Killorn hit, but the second hit, he was staggered. Now I'm surprised they didn't pull him off the ice for a concussion review, because it looked like he didn't know where he was after that hit.
Why didn't they? It's so weird. They should have.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't either.
Because it's the playoffs. That's
no, they've been pretty good about it.
No, don't go there.
No, but in playoffs they've been pretty good about it.
They have been good. They've pulled other guys.
We're joined by Jan Levine. Hi, Jan.
Hey guys.
Yeah, so we're just talking about the Islanders game last night. I mean, I will say that, especially in the first period, the Islanders definitely had their thing going. And they had Tampa on their heels, and that's what they can do. The problem is, of course, like we talked about before, if you don't bury the, you get your thing going, they started getting themselves power plays. The Islanders are not, they are built to be a 5-on-5 team, just flat out. That's what they are. You know. So
Well, and Jan,
Go ahead.
Jan, I want to get your opinion on this because, again, in this, it's 2 games into this series. The one goal that the Islanders get is from Matt Martin. The Beauvillier-Nelson Bailey line was shut down. Their power play was shut down. I just have to say, because I was taking some heat from Leaf fans because I said, way to go, Mike Babcock, with Matt Martin. You couldn't use him on a 4th line, and then he's playing for the Islanders. He's got 5 goals in the playoffs because they're using him the right way. He's on a jam line with Cizikas and Clutterbuck, and he was driving the Lightning crazy. But you need Beauvillier and Nelson and Bailey and Barzal to score, or you're not going to win.
Right.
I mean, they generated opportunities. I mean, the problem, as you mentioned, those they didn't convert, right? The 2 key aspects was the 5-minute power play after the Gord hit on Nelson, and they didn't score. They had 5 shots and didn't score on the power play. And then, more importantly, was the 5-on-3 later, where they had almost a minute, I think it was 58 seconds or something like that, with the 5-on-3. Not only did they didn't score, they didn't generate anything. That was the bigger thing, right? They didn't really have opportunities there. And you mentioned the Martin goal was obviously a deflection in front, but Trotz has been aggressive with moving Martin up. He's played him on the 2nd line at times. He's moving down to the 3rd line. And while he's playing on the 4th line, he has shown the ability to score a little bit better than we expect from him. Now, granted, the goal was a fluky goal because it hit off a stick and then went over Vasilevsky's shoulder, but goal is a goal. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of the Nelson hit, I mean, firstly, second one, definitely, I mean, granted, as a hearing today, and it clearly should be a hearing because he got away with a massive cross-check. I don't know what the refs were looking at when he did it, when he peeled away from him. And as you mentioned, the standing 8 count probably would have been warranted in terms of the way Nelson was hit. He has the cut under the eye. Look, the Islanders had their chances yesterday. They imposed their will, not just in the first period, but I thought a pretty good portion of the game. I thought Tampa was a bit better in the 3rd. But you really look at that game, the only sustained attack they really had was honestly the last 35 seconds of the game where they got the goal, where they had 3 separate opportunities to score. 2 of them got stopped. I think they had one other really good shot where, if I remember correctly, Varlamov did a really good blocker save on a shot that was ticketed to the low corner on the blocker side. Well, other than that, they didn't have a ton of opportunities, Tampa, but they stayed in the game. Vasilevsky played well. They didn't give the Islanders a lot of quality shots in terms of down low, but they had that shot at the end of the game, 30 seconds, and a gorgeous feed by McDonough that Kucherov was able to convert, and the Islanders go home down to zip. And now, granted, it's not the 8-2 loss, but it's probably even more disheartening knowing that they controlled play and weren't able to get the job done, and now they're down 2-0 on a team that, honestly, they lost point. You had Gord who was knocked out. They went with 11-7. They were down to 9 forwards, and yet you still score.
Yeah, and see, to me, that's the biggest dagger of it all, and that's the reason why John Cooper was pumping his fist like Sylvester Stallone and over the top.
You know what? And Trotz is going to use that. Trust me.
But look, that's a valid reaction, though. I mean, if you can't get pumped up scoring with 7.8 seconds to go, something is wrong.
They got completely outplayed by the Islanders, and to win that game, John Shannon tweeted out a photo that spoke 1,000 words with Kucherov celebrating that goal and the heads of the 2 Islander players buried underneath the boards. That's a killer. Now, if they come back and win this series, God bless them. Then they have more credibility than I
do think they can come back, but I will say this. Listening to the post game, and we always knew, Ryan McDonough was a smart player, but he did know what was on the clock, and he did know that, hey, if I move up and pinch on this, the puck, there's not enough time to go back and get a goal the other way. That was just smart hockey, and I got to tip my cap to him. Yeah,
I mean, he's been impressive. I mean, he's been playing hurt too, and he's been really impressive. I think.
He's had a great series.
I mean, a lot is good. A lot of praise has gone to Hedman, and rightfully so. But he's been good. McDonough has
been really good.
Now, let's switch to this because I didn't get last night. The news came out that Bruce Cassidy won the Jack Adams, and you can't argue with that, and simply because they were the President's Trophy winner. The Bruins had a great season. Everything got undermined with the pandemic, and then Rask and them bowing out early to Tampa Bay. But they had a fantastic regular season. And remember, the Jack Adams is based on what a coach did during the regular season. It's voted on right after the year is over with.
Right.
I have no problem with Bruce Cassidy being in the top 3. I have a big problem with Bruce Cassidy winning this award because his team was in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final last year, so they were supposed to be one of the best teams in the East. I'm sorry, the Columbus Blue Jackets were supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. Well, They lost Panarin, they lost Duchesne, they lost Dzingel, they lost Bobrovsky. They had injuries like Bjorkstrand and Foligno and Jenner
and Werenski and
Jones. Yeah, that whole defense was gone for a while.
How dare and I'm one of them. I'm a member of the Professional Hockey Writers.
No, but these are the broadcasters, Mike. You didn't. This is not a PWH.
No, I know. But I was saying, I mean, honestly, how about giving the vote for this to the PHWA? Because
it might be a good reason to.
Yeah, whoever the group that voted on this is absolutely friggin' clueless. Not only because Tortorella didn't win, but because Vigneault was second ahead of Tortorella.
Right. That's where it really gets screwed up. And look, I thought Vigneault had a terrific year, but if you're looking at just the spare parts that basic parts that every team has, Columbus was woefully prepared as far as what they had on paper going into that season. Cassidy had the most to work with. Vigneault did do a great job. I mean, I would keep Vigneault second and Cassidy third, but you had to put Torts first. It's just it was mind-boggling to me. And again, I get now Flyers fans should not be saying, well, Lindblom didn't win the Masterton. We kind of set up why Lindblom probably didn't win the Masterton and may win it next year. If he has a really good season, he'll win it next year.
Yeah, he will.
Now
he wasn't back by the regular season end. That's probably part of
I think that's a big thing.
Why was Cassidy one of the top 3? Given what he had to work with already, and should he have been a finalist?
Well,
let alone a winner.
Finalist was fine.
This is the thing that's ridiculous. Cassidy had 288 points, and it's points that were assigned first, second, third place. Right. Cassidy was on 82 ballots. I don't know how many ballots they extend, but say it was 82 ballots. Tortorella was on 62. That means that 20 people who voted for this didn't rate him in the top 3. You are friggin' clueless.
And this, I'll tell you what else drives you crazy. Yeah. Jeff Ward got a vote. I bet you it wouldn't take me too long to figure out who that was.
Well, like you say, I mean, if this is Hockey Writers,
how does Jeff Ward get a vote?
Yeah.
How about Joel Quenneville getting a vote?
Joel Quenneville. I saw he got 2, I think, Mike.
Wow.
1 third place vote.
One third place vote. So did Quenneville. So did DeBoer.
Yeah, we need to consider giving the people who name this award to somebody else. I think the GM should actually pick this award.
The GMs pick the Vezina, right?
Yeah, the GMs.
I think I'd rather have. I think the writers should pick the Vezina, and I think the GM should pick the Coach Award because I think they're the ones who really honestly know who's being a bigger factor than anyone. I mean, they really do.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, but to have the media pick the Coach's Award is just.
Mike kind of led with this, right? You know what the lead is. He buried it a little bit, but you know exactly what the lead is to why Tortorella didn't get all the votes.
Right.
This relationship, very simple.
Yeah, and he's
that should have absolutely.
It shouldn't have any effect. It shouldn't. And that's coming from me saying that he deserved to be fined, and those post games were terrible. But it doesn't matter. That doesn't take away the coaching job he did. I think Bill C's right too. He basically said, look, Cassidy probably should have won last year, and this was a reputation thing. And unfortunately, I think he's right.
But but Tortorella's antics in the playoffs wouldn't have had any effect on the vote because the vote happened at
regular season.
Right, it was regular season.
And one more thing, Bill C., we're not whining about Boston winning anything. I couldn't care less that it's Boston. I'm not rating my opinion on Boston. It's whether or not what fair is fair. And honestly, look at what Trotz had to work with. Look what Cassidy had to work with. And if you think the two equate to one another, you're crazy because what Torts did there with a team that had no right to even come sniff the playoffs, you have to give them the benefit. He should clearly have been the one to win the award.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was lunacy. But again, now I do wonder today why Flyers fans may be worried because of the reputation thing if Couturier doesn't win the Selke. And I voted for him as my number 1, but I do think there's a fair chance that he is not going to win the Selke now based on how other voting has been going, even though it's different
No, this is the
different voting panels.
Russ, like I said when we were reviewing the nominees, it could be Bergeron because this might be the last chance he gets.
I know, and that's terrible though for a player like Couturier, who has clearly, even on television this year, nationally, has finally gotten the respect that his line shuts down a lot of other lines besides what he does offensively. And boy, I got to tell you, if Twitter is going to be a bad place to be tonight in between periods if Bergeron wins, not because it's Bergeron. We all like Bergeron. You can Boston, and we all like Bergeron. I have tremendous respect for the guy. I think he's a great human being.
He's a no doubt Hall of Famer. He's one of the best two-way centers in the history of this league.
Like, he is just a regular, down-to-earth guy who is a superstar. But at the end of the day, I don't think he should win this year.
No, me neither. I agree with you 100%.
Let's talk some rumors.
All right, so let's get to some rumors.
Yep.
All right, first off, Matt Murray, who's been coming up a lot in the past. Pierre LeBrun wrote that Edmonton had some discussions with Pittsburgh, and the Pittsburgh wants a first-round draft pick, which is something that I wrote a while ago. That's the asking price.
And Pittsburgh and Jim Rutherford is out to lunch if he thinks
there's no way Ken Holland's doing that.
This is the well, no, and I don't think there's anyone,
especially with as many goalies that are out there.
Yeah, but I don't think there's
the driver.
I don't think there's any way anyone does this for one simple fact. Once you trade for him, you have to pay him.
Right.
It's like, okay, you give up a second-round pick and then you have to pay him $5.5 million. That's one thing. You give up a first-round pick and then have to pay him $5.5 to $6 million. Go screw. I mean, he's coming off his worst career season. He had a sub 900 save percentage. Do I think he's a great goaltender? He's won 2 Stanley Cups, sure, but
I think he'll bounce back.
I think he'll bounce back too, and that's why there are teams that are interested. But the problem is that Pittsburgh wants value for Murray based on what his potential is and what he's done in the past, not based on what he just did last year. And they're in a situation where they have Jari and they don't have a lot of cap room. They have to move him or they risk losing him for nothing. So you're not getting a first-round pick. You're just not.
Plus also the expansion, right? That's the overarching component for next year, right? Let's say if you did happen to keep both of them,
right,
you're going to lose one of them probably in expansion, which means you're going to get nothing unless you pay somebody.
This is Rutherford's game. Is this? I think he knows that he's got 2 teams, and this is what I was talking to somebody about today. And I wrote about. He knows he's got 2 teams in Alberta that both would like him. Okay,
and there's another team in Ontario that does too. Right,
and there's a team in Ontario, which is another in Toronto, which is another major team that you want to get. You want to get into this thing. So what do? You got to start high with this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to make the deal right away. Like you don't. If Edmonton, it's like you're trying to sell your car and you're asking. So if somebody gives you $10,000, sure, I'll take it. He doesn't expect to get that first round pick, I don't think, but he's going to start there, and because he also wants that Make no mistake about it. He wants Pierre LeBrun and me and other people writing about this too. He wants to get that
generate a market. Yes,
he's very good at this. Like this is what Rutherford does as well as anybody. And he knows with Edmonton and Calgary, it's good to play them against each other. So you're going to play them against each other and make that work. Carolina's interested, but I was told Carolina basically can't even get a call back. I mean, they're in the division and that's where they are. But I think that he's really looking more towards the Canadian teams.
Yeah.
And
I think Carolina is going to end up being one of these teams that gets their goaltender as a response to another team getting their goaltender. Like they would trade for Frederik Andersen if the Leafs get their goalie.
Right. There's guys out there they could end up getting, but I think that and there's rumors now that Robin Leonard is close to signing an extension.
And I'm gonna write about this, but this is the thing. If you don't think that this has a dramatic effect on the goalie market, if what Elliot Friedman is reporting is true, which is a 5-year deal for $5 million per, which is a lot less than I think a lot of people. That's the same deal that Frederik Andersen signed with Toronto 4 years ago.
But I think that's the goalie market now, anyhow.
Right. And
goalies are thrilled with long deals. Long deals can happen with goalies.
There's no way that Markstrom, there's no way that Holtby, there's no way that Crawford or any of the free agent goaltenders or even Matt Murray with 2 Stanley Cups is going to be able to ask for $5 million after Leonard gets 5.
Right, but you know who killed the goalie market? Bob. Bob killed the goalie market.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean the bottom line is long. Yeah, right. I mean he goes in there, it signs for all that money.
Contract
flat cap also. Remember, you have a
but it was the
flat cap.
If the cap had moved a little bit, you
goalies
might
are
have
so
gotten a bit
temperamental.
more.
Like you don't want to go more than 2 or 3 years with a goalie ever. Like that's just crazy. So the $5 million, I think, is actually pretty good if you get 5 years. Like I think if you're talking about 5 years, I think that's a deal that I think a lot of goalies will take.
I think it's also reflective of the fact that the goaltenders are now going to be used differently. We saw the trend over the last 2 years where it's in 1A, 1B, where a number one goalie is going to play 50 games instead of 60 to 65, and the number two is going to play 25 to 30. So the reliance on the number one goaltender is less. So that means they pay them less. I mean, the days of Carey Price making 10.5 and Bobrovsky making 10 are over with.
I mean,
not happening
for 10 years. Draft 2 goalies every year.
Yeah.
And then eventually you won't have to pay your backup so much money because you'll have your backup in your system and you'll have your next backup in your system. And that's what teams should do. They've been very slow to react to this. Some of the smart ones have been doing it, but not every team has been doing this. Not enough of them.
And this will be a job guarantee act for the 1B goalies that are out there. You know, Kudobin, if he doesn't re-sign with Dallas, will get a 2 or 3 year deal someplace for probably $3.5 million as a number two. Grice probably, instead of going to the Swiss league, might get somebody that's interested in him as a 1B. Those goalies are valuable.
Yeah. I'm hearing the Islanders might keep their current duo.
They got Sorokin there, so
no, they got Sorokin there.
They got Sorokin.
Yeah, but they're current. I mean,
most probably definitely going to be part of the active roster. So you're not going to keep 3 goalies if they're done.
No, they won't be great.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I've heard him that they've been talking to Grice about a 1 year deal. So I don't know whether that means that they don't know if Sorokin's ready quite yet, or
how would they even know?
Yeah, I don't know how they would know. I don't know.
Sorokin wouldn't have signed with them if he wasn't almost guaranteed a spot. He's not going to play in Bridgeport. He'll go back to the KHL.
We shouldn't say that, Mike. Is it possible that he goes on a short assignment to Bridgeport until they find a spot for Grice?
Well, I'm checking
Grice. I mean, you can't say it's impossible.
I'm checking right now, but I believe he has a European assignment.
I thought there was an escape clause also.
Yeah, so if
it still doesn't mean he won't do it. Samsonov did it.
Right, but
he did. I mean, it's possible, and it's also possible that I don't know. Maybe Varlamov is moved out. I don't know.
No, I don't think yet. But look, Samsonov did it, so I think it's possible. They say to Sorokin, "We're going to give you 10 starts in the AHL, and because the AHL starts late, that is enough time to sign Grice and then eventually trade him."
But there's an age difference here. Whereas Sorokin is 25 and has played 3 or 4 years in the KHL, whereas Samsonov it was 21 when he came over.
No, I get it, but it still doesn't mean. Even with the age, Mike, it still doesn't mean he can't benefit from it.
Oh, I'm not saying he can't benefit from it. I just don't think he would have come over if he thought I'm going to be placed in the AHL. There's no benefit for him. And from probably in his mind, he thinks he's an NHL goaltender, and that's why he signed and came over.
Yeah,
sure, but as an example, Kravtsov probably thought he was an NHL player too.
He's 18 years old.
But I'm just saying they all come over thinking they're NHL players from the KHL, and not all of them are ready.
Yeah, I mean, you have other goalies. One of the things that's interesting is you have your goalies like Elliott or Grice who are, or Smith, in Edmonton that are definitely backups. They're 100% backups, but they're good backups. And they're solid backups. They come in and they give you good games. And then you have a lot of other goalies who are still like Hope he's a starter still in his mind. So that's where this thing's going to get fascinating, I think, as it plays out.
Well, okay. Let me. There was something that Pierre LeBrun wrote about a couple days ago, and obviously it's somebody that we all know in terms of a player, and that's Wayne Simmonds.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Simmonds is at a crossroad in his career. He's 32 years old. He's been on 4 teams in the last 2 years. He is definitely slowed down. And according to the article, he's battled injuries, but he's 100% healthy now, and he's working out like a fiend. So it definitely sounds like he's trying to drum up interest. Right. I don't see, and LeBrun asked him about Toronto, and that's always been a rumor. I don't see the Leafs signing Wayne Simmonds unless it's a 1 year deal at the veteran minimum, because somebody maybe to replace Kyle Clifford on the 4th line. He's the days of him making $2 million, $3 million, $4 million are over with.
And I said I would not sign him at all, because with a flat cap, even at the minimum, I have to watch my money now. I am not signing him.
Well, Russ,
definitely a minimum player if he does get signed.
I do think that the Leafs need the type of player that Simmonds has been in the past and might still be able to contribute as a fourth liner. So I would roll the dice on a $700,000 or $750,000 1-year contract. But anything longer term or more money, no thank you.
Yeah, but you're still taking the spot then of somebody else who actually might be able to play the role and get you some points. You're talking about a guy that's going to get 10, 12, 13 points. What is he really going to bring other than some occasional toughness? He's going to slow down your fourth line.
If he's taking the spot of Freddie Gauthier, he's probably faster than him and more effective.
I don't think he's faster than Gauthier.
And he can step in.
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think he's faster than Gauthier, but he can step on the power play for sure.
Yeah, but again, I think he had 2 power play goals last year. Like, we're not talking.
Yeah, he wasn't playing with the greatest power play players either.
Oh, wait a minute. New Jersey had some guys on the power play.
He did, but their power play wasn't good.
But it doesn't matter.
Murray was able to score somehow on the power play. I mean,
right.
I don't know if
he
I'd go
can't
that far.
stay in the crease, act like he used to. It's
I
easier
agree
to move him out now.
Yeah, and
we all like Wayne Simmonds. Can we move past the fact that he's a good guy and talk about what he wasn't able to do in Buffalo on the ice, why Nashville got rid of him? There's reasons.
Yeah, no, he definitely cannot. He's not good on the breakouts at all. He can't skate on the breakouts. He has a tough time keeping up with that kind of stuff.
He's a half-court guy. Like, you have to.
He's a half-court guy for sure.
If you're doing a cycling line, then maybe you could use him because you're going to have to, wait on him to get there.
Yeah. Let's move on to the other rumor I have today, which is the Flyers and Leafs again. And these teams definitely, and it's just, as much as I don't want to talk about these teams involved in trades, they are absolutely suited for each other. And
yes, but this deal, I read the rumor, and I honestly think it's a non-starter. First of all, the Leafs have absolutely no interest in Shane Gostisbehere.
Not Gostisbehere, no, he's not.
You mentioned Gostisbehere's part of it.
I mentioned his name as somebody they've discussed.
I mean, Mike, you're speaking for Kyle Dubas. I can't say Kyle Dubas wouldn't listen.
Well, I mean,
the rumor is not Gostisbehere. The rumor is Nylander for Sanheim, and that's the rumor that's out there.
There's no way they would do that because Sanheim, after what he showed in the playoffs, there is no way in hell the Leafs are making that deal.
And this is the problem with it. Sanheim is a top 4 defenseman.
He was really good in the playoffs. So he was just he's young, and young defensemen can make mistakes, but they can also be really good. Like, to me, he's right in the middle there. He could turn into a really good defenseman.
Sanheim is a top 4 defenseman. There's no doubt.
Yep.
He's young. I believe he's 23 or 24 years old.
Yep.
He's only under contract for 1 more year. That would be an issue for Toronto, because if they're trading a guy in Nylander, who they front loaded the first 2 years and paid, I think it was something in the neighborhood of $17 million in the first 2 years in signing bonus.
Right.
And they want to get somebody who is locked up long term in return. Sanheim is not. He's an arbitration eligible free agent after next year, and then he's a UFA the year after. So you'd be potentially trading him for somebody who could walk in 2 years. And that. And also the problem is that Sanheim is a left shot.
Honestly, in reality, I think the Flyers would jump at this deal only because, like Mike said, they're going to have to pay Sanheim close to the time they're going to have to pay other players.
Right.
And again, Nylander would be one of their top forwards instantly.
Yeah, I mean,
the issue is the Flyers are definitely looking for scoring. The Leafs are definitely looking for defense. Okay.
Right. But people. I mean,
these are 2 players that both teams are going to have a tough time moving.
But people seem to think that you can just throw any defenseman at the Leafs.
Right.
He doesn't throw in any defenseman at the Leafs.
No, he's a good defenseman.
Let me finish what I was saying. They are focused on right shot, right-handed defensemen. And
they don't always get that, Mike. We talked about that.
They're obsessed with that all the time.
Well, they have to be.
I think that was more. I really don't think that's as much. I don't think that's as much this group as it was when Babcock was there. I really don't.
No, you have young right-hand shot defensemen. You have Liljegren. They could get this.
Yeah, but Russ, I mean, you and I have both noticed the fact that they've seemed hesitant to put Liljegren in the lineup. Maybe they're sold that he's not an NHL defenseman.
Maybe this year he gets his chance.
Now, Adam's joking here in the chat where he says Ristolainen for Mar. I could see the Leafs trading for Ristolainen because Ristolainen makes more sense. He's on a short-term deal. The Sabres want to trade him. He's a right-hand shot. He's played in the Atlantic Division for a while. The problem is they're not, the Sabres will never trade with the Leafs because of the ramification. But if you're talking trading Nylander, and it's going to be a right-hand shot defenseman with term, a Dumba, an Ekblad, somebody like
you might not get those guys. The point is,
you just have to make a big enough deal.
The point here that's valid is the Flyers were interested in Nylander when he was having his protracted negotiations with the Leafs the first time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when teams are interested in a guy, they're willing to go back to the well.
And even more than that, Russ Fletcher, when he was with Minnesota was the team that was most interested in him back then. So that went right down to the wire. Yeah, like, but I was talking to the Wild, and they right before Nylander eventually signed his deal on December 30th or whatever it was.
But the difference now is that Fletcher is dealing with the Flyers talent base and not Minnesota. With Minnesota, there was a fit. They had Brodin. They had Dumba, and Brodin's a lefty, but they had Brodin, they had Dumba, they had Spurgeon, 2 right-hand shot defensemen, exactly what the Leafs would be looking for in a deal for me.
I mean, it's amazing to me, like how, I mean, if we talked about this trade earlier in the year, Mike, and Sanheim was like, yeah, that. I mean, I know he had a bad couple games, and he's had some bad games, but this guy's stock has not fallen at the bottom. I mean, in the beginning of the playoffs, Sanheim was at times their best player on defense.
It's not about the quality of the player. I think Sanheim is a really good top 4 defenseman. It's the fact that the Leafs on the left side right now have Riley for another 2 years. They just re-signed Muzzin. Their number 1 prospect in the organization is Rasmus Sandin, who plays the left side. Dermott's a lefty. Mikko Lehtinen, who they signed out of the KHL, is a lefty. They need righties. Right now,
they're played both sides for the Flyers, and he's played both sides pretty effectively.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
He's not ready to play both sides yet. He's not.
Davy Jones says Sammy Vatanen would make more sense, but Vatanen's probably going to get $5 million in free agency. And I don't, the Leafs.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting because I just know from talking to people in Toronto today. I talked to a bunch of different guys, and they're higher on Sanheim than these guys you're talking about. I mean, not Ristolainen, but beyond. His name didn't come up today. But Vatanen's name came up today.
I mean, I will agree.
Dumba's name came up today.
I will agree that the Flyers need to be looking for a scorer similar to Nylander, because I think with what we talked about a couple days ago with the decline of Voracek, with the decline of Giroux, they need an infusion of offense.
Right.
I know Bill Meltzer just tweeted out earlier about he believes that Nolan Patrick will be back next year.
Yeah, they are thinking that.
Yeah, but okay, we all believe that he's going to try and come back. Remember, he has not had contact in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
He could have contact and have a problem again. We don't know that yet.
It's really out. He
doesn't know that yet.
And how Lindblom recovers, honestly, is also kind of an unknown. I mean, Lindblom had,
Well, I think he's recovered enough that you could say he's a useful hockey player for sure. But with Patrick, like, you don't know. He's not practicing with contact. He's not having his buddies hit him on the ice and see how he feels after. That's all going to be experimental, and you're going to be starting to see, camp with that.
But I think
that's going to go.
I think this whole pandemic and everything, and Patrick not returning at all or not trying to return was the best thing that could have happened.
I agree.
And I think there is a good feeling now that he actually was almost ready to come back, and now we're giving this extra time left after that. There's no reason to think.
But even again, I would argue, how would they know? Because they didn't have him practice with the team with a contact jersey on.
He hasn't gotten hit, granted, but
that's a big thing.
No, it's a big thing. But concussion, we've seen concussions through time. But
this isn't even a concussion. This is migraines. This is different.
Right, which is, could be better, could be worse.
I know. I don't even know if we've had another.
I'm not saying there's not a lot of unknowns, but there's no reason to write this off either. To me, that is something that they have to play out and see where it goes, because perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think they have to play it out for sure.
Perhaps it turns out that he's still a great player, or could be a great player. I mean, he had moments where he showed that he was a great player for sure before all this happened. I mean, he maybe not as good as the guy who was drafted after him by Dallas, but still good.
I'm going to tell you the part that's the real unknown to Ek. I can't think of another NHL player that's had the same situation that Nolan Patrick has had, and that's another problem because you don't even have anything to go on.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm sure there have. I'm sure we have. I have to look it up. We have to look it up, but I'm sure. Obviously, you can't be the first player that's had migraine issues.
And anybody on the panel remember anybody with anything similar? I can't.
Stamkos, Crosby. Crosby.
No, but that's concussion. These are migraines.
Yeah, the difference is
Hasn't there been some indication that they think that the migraine?
No, they haven't talked. No, they actually said they have been saying no to the concussion thing for a long time, for what I understand, right, Ek?
They have been saying no to it, but
yeah.
And I've always wondered if that's part of that is like the Flyers' history with concussions is so weird.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are.
You not want to talk about concussions at all?
I know. I have friends who have migraine issues, and there are methods to being able to solve. Clark MacArthur and Esmir said he had issues, but those were concussion related. That's why
MacArthur was concussion related, and even friends. And I have someone in my family that has the problem. The problem is they don't get hit at top speed when they're playing hockey.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean it's a migraine disorder, so it's like I'm trying to find out. I'm going to look up.
I could not find another player.
No, I mean I really haven't.
NHL-wise, no. I mean, there's been baseball players, I think, and football players that have suffered from it. Well, I mean, if you remember, Pippen in I think '95, right? He missed basically. He couldn't play. It was like '92, '91 against the Pistons was basically a shell of himself in that game because he had a migraine. Probably he said he couldn't see straight. He was seeing double.
Yeah,
he could barely stand straight up and see. So that was one guy who was clearly impacted by migraines. They're debilitating. I mean,
no, they're incredibly debilitating. I've had issues. I've had family members too.
Anthony,
there are also. Yeah. It's one of those things where there's a lot of research going into. There's a lot of medications that are coming out all the time. There's hope in all different situations. So who knows? I mean, perhaps, you know, I mean, he's still incredibly young. Like he's still like really, really young. You know, he came into the league as you know right away, as we know, but he's still like, you know, he's not old. And if they can get medication
but he needs to be fully battle tested. That's the thing.
He's got to be battle tested. It might take him a year to get back, and you know you could even see him like taking it slowly. But I still think there's reason to think that he has enough natural skill, to definitely. It's not somebody that the Flyers would just trade away for nothing at this point. Put it that way. They still feel it. I think they're still feeling that you know he's got a possibility at least.
To answer Timothy Park, yes, caloric was predatory. It was.
I just have to bring this up for comic relief, and I'm not making fun of him, but I have to bring it up because it has gotten to be a ongoing joke. Craig Morgan yesterday reported, like this was a big scoop, that Pierre Maguire was no longer a candidate for the Coyotes GM.
Yeah.
Was he ever really a candidate, or is this just like some sort of shadow campaign? It's
not a shadow campaign. Look, he is at ice level at a lot of games. He is a guy who hears a lot on the bench and sees a lot of action. It is smart by teams to call him in under the guise of hiring him to see what he thinks about guys on his team and what he hears and what he sees. Because guess what? The GM doesn't get to see and hear as much as Pierre does.
Yeah.
But we have to stop saying that he's a legitimate candidate for a general.
Well, he was a GM once.
He was a GM, and he's interviewed for a bunch of them.
Be a candidate. I know he's polarizing, and I know it goes on. Look, I know guys who hate listening to Doc Emmerich because they find him polarizing also. Maguire, I know, is polarizing, but you know what? He actually knows hockey.
I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't.
So that would kind of be an important part of being a GM.
I don't know yet. I don't know why he wouldn't think
those guys in organizations.
I mean, I'm not saying that I don't think that there's a big machine here that pushes rumors about Pierre Maguire around, because I personally know there is. But at the same time, I do also know that he is considered a legitimate candidate by some people. I think his name gets out there more often than not. Like there are people whose names never get out there that interview all the time too.
Sure.
But at the same time, he is definitely. This is something. I mean, the Arizona job, though. Can we talk about that? I mean, that's just like I was looking through the. One of the things I've been doing.
Telling us who they're not hiring.
Oh my gosh! When I've been trying to sit here and do the winners, the teams that are sellers and buyers and whose windows are opening, windows are closing, stuff like that. I've been going through like the cap space that people have and the amount of contracts that they've signed. And Arizona has projected like $1.1 million in cap space. That's all they have. They have 35 of 50 so they have 35 contracts signed, and they have, so teams can have up to 50, as you know. But rosters 23, they have 17 of their 20. So they've got 5 players to sign on their roster with $1.1 million.
Well, okay.
Isn't even doable.
I honestly think that because of what you had told us, Ek, about the owner's son wanting to sort of run the business side, that I think Sullivan is going to just scoot over, take over a different desk, and tell him who he likes and doesn't like as players.
That's the rumor.
And I think that's how they're going to run it. I don't think they're going to bring in anybody.
First of all, Marian Hossa at the beginning of the year, he's on IR, not an LTIR, so that opens up $5 million more in cap space.
Okay.
He's never going to play again.
Yes, he will.
Well, I know, Russ. You think he's going to play? Trust me. They have 4 defensemen, but 3 of them who make $4 million or over. Goligoski, Yarmelson, and Demers. One of them probably gets traded because they're all within the last year of their contract, and they could probably move that defenseman without taking any salary back. I wouldn't doubt that there's a possibility that they trade Derek Stepan, because we're talking about a team that has come out publicly and said they want to rebuild. How they're going to rebuild without first-round picks the next 2 years, I don't know. I think it's asinine that they say they're going to rebuild, but that they may end up doing that simply because they can't pay anybody right now. And I don't see how in God's green earth they go out and re-sign Taylor Hall. I don't. It makes no sense.
No, I mean, they've got, like you said,
they've got buyout plans we don't know about.
$28 million. They've got $28 million right now spent on their defense, in total. It's like,
are you going to buy out Phil Kessel with
this is not like a killer defense we're looking at.
No, but here's what they could do. Heck, again, I am not going to give Arizona a lot of credit for building the right team. So based on that, if OEL is telling them he would like to be traded, they would sign Taylor Hall and trade Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Like, I could see it happening.
Yeah, if they think Barrett Hayton is ready to step into a center role in the NHL at age 20, then they could trade Stepan with a year.
They're going to force him into it.
Well, I don't think they have a choice. And given what Stepan's production was, I think they would love to move him also.
I don't think anybody's taking Derek Stepan.
Not unless you eat a portion of the salary.
You have to eat a big portion. Yes.
Yeah.
So by the way, Mike, that, according to what I'm looking at least, that the money I gave you, that includes that taking that $5 million off for Hossa.
Not according to Cap Friendly. According to Cap Friendly, they're
looking at it right now.
They have 1.1, right, but he's on injured reserve, not LTIR. Injured reserve counts against the cap. LTIR does not. You'd only be able to put him on LTIR once the regular season starts. So you start with whatever cap space you have. They could go over the cap, but at the beginning of the year, they have to be compliant at $81.5 million. So then they would have to put him on LTIR, and that, as close as they are to 81.5, they would subtract the $5 million off the cap. So they will have an extra $4.1 million in cap space. Like, if the cap stayed right now,
they'll have $5 million to sign 5 players.
Right, which is impossible, which means they probably, they trade Antti Ranta, or they trade Kemper, or they move one of those defensemen.
If you eat half of Stepan's contract, you're saving $3.25 million, and it's only 1 year. You can probably potentially find a taker at that amount.
All right, I'm going to give you a trade, Ek.
Okay.
What if, and maybe Stepan gets included in this deal, depending on how the money works out. What if they trade Stepan and Oliver Ekman-Larsson for Johnny Gaudreau?
Interesting. Yeah.
Now, here's the problem.
Like,
here's the problem with
something like that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with buying out somebody like Kessel. Kessel's contract is almost all signing bonus. They save nothing. They save $500,000 if they buy him out.
Phil Kessel will still be there. Like, Phil Kessel will still show up and skate at the pre-skate, even if they get rid of him. You know that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that like, for people saying out there, okay, you buy out Phil Kessel, it opens up cap space. It doesn't. So they won't do that. But
it would be like the guy from Office Space that they basically say, hey, listen, you're not working here anymore, but you could hang around the basement if you want.
I can tell you, there's another side rumor that I just got a text on too, that the Flyers have talked to Edmonton about Puljujarvi. Not sure whether that would be something they would do or not, but it is there. And
I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but it depends on what they would ask for.
Yeah, it depends what they would ask for. It's very true. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that have talked to Edmonton about Puljujarvi, though. I mean, and now Puljujarvi has basically come out and said that he's basically not. He's not going to show up in Edmonton unless they say he's going to play on.
He's going back and forth because 2 weeks ago it sounded like he was willing to go to Edmonton. Now it's
now he's not. Yeah.
Well, because Edmonton said you'll be playing here, and then maybe he was like, I don't want to play here.
I'll sign if you trade me. Right. Exactly. Now,
I mean, do you think the Oilers would move Bouchard? That's the other thing that's been come up a little bit lately today too. Is that that was somebody that Pittsburgh would talked about as well with Murray. Would be Bouchard moving back. The defenseman. That's a tough one.
That's risky for Edmonton, man. You may be trading them a 10-year defenseman for a short-lived Matt Murray. Like that would be declining returns, I think.
Now, right now, like a story, Rob Rossi in the Athletic talked about Letang and the possibility of him getting traded there. And then I heard some things yesterday. Well, it's not really realistic. I don't think it's realistic that they get anything much for Letang because he's making $7.25 million and his injury history is terrible.
No, but if they take back $2 million and he's a $5 million defenseman who could score 45, 50 points,
it's different.
Now, he's got value with like a team. It depends where you go. Like Montreal really wants him. So
Montreal would take him in a heartbeat.
So Montreal, there's certain places. It depends where he would go. That.
Listen, I got to be honest. If Philly were to move Travis Sanheim, Philly would be in on it. He would solve their power play problem.
But Pittsburgh and Philly making a trade together. I mean, that's only happened a couple times.
You never know. Weird times.
It has happened, but in the beginning of the season, I don't know, Letang going to Philly, I would have a really hard time imagining.
Maybe they do it because Letang says, "Hey, I want to stay in the state." Who knows?
Was be able to continue to go buy his alcohol at State stores.
No. But I mean, if he's got his kids in school,
all the benefits of living in Pennsylvania.
No. But if he has his kids in school, it is a short trip. You were the first one that talked about the kids in school thing. That could be a factor.
No, I do think kids in school is a big thing. I do. But it doesn't matter. I think that's really just like staying where you are now because versus going.
Pittsburgh and Philly are not far apart. He could work it out.
Yeah.
Andrew Perry in the chat because we want to talk about Dallas Vegas before we end the show.
Yeah, we got
to trade this Sagan guy because he's looked invisible.
No.
He's got a broken finger or a broken hand.
Yeah, something's going on because he does look better a little bit in the last. Not last game, but
hustling, he's fast. He's checking people. He just has not scored. He's only got 7 points.
Yeah. I think that's. Sagan's pretty, especially with this run by Pittsburgh. They're not with run by Dallas. Sorry, they're not going to make a move.
They're not going to make a move like that. Him and Ben are like joined at the hip.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's been pretty safe for them so far. But let's talk about tonight's game quickly because we really are out of time. Yeah. So this is the rubber match, right? We've seen each team with a shutout. Game 3 now comes up, and what do we think is going to happen? Dallas has the benefit, I guess, of the last change night, so that changes the dynamic a little bit.
I don't know how much that means. What I do think will happen is, well, for Dallas to win, they got to play more discipline. They can't take the stupid penalties and allow Vegas to sort of get into this because it was a fairly even game up until the point where Dallas started taking stupid penalties in the second period.
Right.
I wonder whether Dallas will make any lineup changes, whether they'll get Cogliano back in there, whether they'll put Taylor Fedun in there instead of Hanley on their third pairing. But most importantly is Russ when they weren't generating it on the offense. They put Radulov, Ben, and Sagan together, and they quickly gave up the first goal. They can't play that line together because all they do is think about offense, and they leave themselves vulnerable either way.
I would put in Cogliano for speed and two-way play. I would. He's a veteran.
Unless he's hurt.
But I would do it otherwise. I see Vegas winning this game. I don't think it'll be another shutout. But again, I think Leonard is at a comfort point here where his team now, I think, is playing the way they wanted to play in this last game, and I don't see them falling off the cliff in this one.
Well, one thing I can see, and I know that believe me, we'll hear Ryan Reeves' comments all game from both ends in sports now, which makes me ill because I don't think he's that impactful of a player. But I would bet about my bottom dollar that Dallas will try to get in Leonard's kitchen. They will send Perry, send Dickinson in front of the net, jab them, bother him because they know they can get under. I've seen many times when he was in Buffalo and when he was at the Islanders where he would emotionally react to somebody getting in his space. And
I've only seen it once this year, though. I haven't seen it much at all since he's been changed. That's to be
just
fair.
once in the playoffs I've seen it, but I think that I do think that there is no question that this is the most physically tough team that Vegas has played. And that I think that size is going. It has to be. Dallas has to use that to their advantage. They have to remember the fact that the Capitals took out Vegas in the Stanley Cup Finals because they were physically tougher than them, and Vegas has gotten tougher since then. But that memory is still there, and they have to. For a lot of those players, so you have to hit them, and they have to hit them more harder and often.
Jan, what did you think of this game?
What we saw out of Vegas in Game 2 to me is the real Vegas. Dallas, we talked yesterday about Ryan Reeves the other day and how the NBC kept highlighting him. And yes, he does make a difference. But I think we also felt that Vegas is a tougher team than we thought they were. They're not one that's going to basically be a wallflower and take getting hit and not necessarily respond. And that's to me the difference in terms of what's going on with this Vegas team. And we just think firepower wise, Dallas in Game 1 kind of bent but didn't break. I mean, Game 2, finally when they got that first goal, we talked about it. You kind of can see the relief on the bench that, we finally know what it looks like for the puck to go in the net. And I think that's kind of the bigger difference here. I think Vegas does win this game and take a 2-1 series lead. I think it's because you said going to be closer than it was in Game 2. But I also think that Vegas does take a 2-1 lead after tonight's game.
Yeah.
Just a little breaking news here. John Cooper did not have an update on Braden Point's injury, but acknowledged that he might not be available for Game 3.
He's not playing.
They've been so open with their injuries in Tampa. I can't imagine why they wouldn't.
We don't even know what exactly the injury is either.
No, but the one thing, they made a good point on the broadcast. He did have double hip surgery in the offseason, and when he went back to the bench, he was gingerly walking on the bench. So I don't think you'll see him for the next couple of games.
No, that's big. That's big. I mean,
it looks like an upper body though than a lower body though.
No, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it was,
whatever it is, it
didn't look steady.
I mean, Barzal looks pretty beat up too. But he's still playing. He's still playing really hard. I mean, my gosh, what happened to him in Game 7 of the Flyers was hilarious. I mean, just all the things he takes pucks on the warm-ups. He takes pucks.
Listen, Brock Nelson's probably the most beat up guy in these.
It's amazing how but Barzal it was getting common.
Barzal, he just has a shiner. Nelson has been getting destroyed.
But Barzal had the worst luck in the world before Game 7. He took that puck off the post in the face. It's like,
I know. It was Keith Jones was just like, at some point you got to laugh at this because it's just crazy. Like everything that's happened to him, he keeps getting hit in the same place and the different things like that. But he still keeps playing. He keeps skating, and he's doing wonders for his value this summer.
Oh yeah.
Get ready. Open up that checkbook there, Lou.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on quickly. We probably get to it tomorrow. So. Came out with Woj yesterday and Shams Charania today that the NBA is moving back their draft, but also they're moving back the start of the season today, it said, likely from December 1st to around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So given what we've talked about a couple times, right? They said December 1st, and I've been a big proponent for months and months and months of the Winter Classic being the first game of the season.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I know Russ has been shaking his head every time I mention it. I do think they're going to move the start date back.
Well, Bill Daly
back. They won't start the season with the Winter Classic, is what I'm saying.
They may cancel the Winter Classic because of how many people that would normally be there.
Right.
Bill Daly was on a podcast with Scott Burnside and Pierre LeBrun yesterday, and pretty much said he would be surprised if it's a December 1st start date, and that if he had to choose between December 1st and January 1st, it would probably be leaning toward January 1st.
I think they're going to start the season.
Yep.
That's what
I've been told. It's going to depend a lot on.
And it may start.
There's a couple plans in place. There is a plan where they start in a bubble, in December. That is possible. If things get bad again,
they're going to be starting in a bubble simply because I don't think there's going to be a vaccine, and it is going to be the only way they could be assured that they can get things off the ground. But I do think there will be a point when they feel like the second wave is past that they'll be able to have some fans in.
They will.
They won't be full arenas, though. They won't be.
And I think that this idea, and I know it was floated out there, of like realigning the divisions to have a 7-team Canadian division please don't do that. I mean, it's just a bad.
That would be silly.
It's just a bad idea.
No, I mean, the only reason that they would do that, obviously, is if there are travel restrictions
or a crossing problem. But
crossing problems and travel restrictions. So to me, That's the only reason that's been brought up. And if it is an option, if it gets to there, but
the players cross just to be in the bubble, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it depends. I mean, it depends how you're going to play this, how this thing plays out.
Look, I get it. It's not optimum to have like a month more where these arenas are empty, but that's what's going to happen.
I mean, there's a couple plans I've heard. I've heard the bubble in the division. The division's going into bubbles in December and January, and then like starting games and with fans in February.
I could see that.
And Daly did say that they're sticking with wanting to play 82 games, but at a certain point, how realistic would that be if they start in January or late January or February?
Right, that's why I think they would start.
I think they can do it because there won't be an All-Star game. There won't be a Winter Classic. They can do it.
Yeah, they would just push everything back. They have found that, playing these playoff games in the summer is not terrible for their ratings.
Right.
They've learned that. So we can see the playoffs be played in the summer again, I think. Would it be different if people have to go to the games? I think it is different. I think that does change things. But yeah, I think they're very much looking into possibilities. I've even heard it, start of a December start and then January where they're playing in arenas that are empty but actually traveling around a little bit. There's like what baseball did. I mean, that's possible that they transition to that before they transition to people in the arenas too. I heard that. So every plan you can think of, they're working on.
After an early stretch of it really being badly handled by baseball, there hasn't been any positives in the last few weeks. So maybe they're finally, tamping down on their stupidity of going out to bars and casinos.
I think people have learned, and I think one of the big problems with the bubble, definitely for the NHL players, is the fact that they're away from their families for the time. So if you can get rid of that aspect of it by playing in arenas, because I think it's one thing to put them in a bubble for the for the playoffs where it's a totally different. It's another thing to put them in a bubble for a regular season. That's going to be really hard for them. They're gonna want to travel around as much as they can. So
right, but the only thing is, they already have a sunk cost on the bubble, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is to keep it operational for another month or two is probably better than if they get rid of the bubble and then they find out in 3 months they have to go back in a bubble.
True. I mean, they would need 4 bubbles. I was told they would have to. They could say
everything in place to do it. They know how to do it.
Yeah, but
they definitely know how to do it now.
They're not going to just do it in Edmonton and Toronto. That's the problem.
No, you would think Eastern U.S., Central U.S., Western U.S., and then maybe a Canada bubble.
Right.
Yeah. Or 2 Canadian and 2 American, which I heard, because depending on where it's how we're doing in America with the whole thing.
Let's not even go there.
Right. So that's another thing altogether. Right. All right. This is all the time we have. It's been a really long day, guys. Thanks for watching the show. We appreciate it. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow. Stay tuned for rumors on Hockey Buzz throughout the day. I'm adding stuff and updating the rumor chart as we go. Remember, without the buzz, it is